Let's start with first news. Coach Javier Mendes believes a victory over Ian Garry at UFC 330 could officially push Islam Makhachev into the conversation as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. The GOAT debate continues to be one of the biggest discussions in the sport, with fans and analysts constantly arguing over who deserves to be called the greatest of all time. According to Mendes, Islam is already getting very close to that level, and another dominant victory could make the argument even stronger. Speaking to Damon Martin of MMA Fighting, Mendes explained that he believes the sky is the limit for Islam. In his view, if Islam gets past Ian Garry and then wins one more major fight, there may be very little left to debate. Mendes said that Islam should already be considered part of the GOAT conversation because of the records he has built throughout his career. However, defeating Garry would add another important achievement to his resume. Of course, Mendes understands that nothing is guaranteed in MMA. Ian Garry is a tough opponent, and anything can happen once the cage door closes. Still, the veteran coach is confident in his fighter and expects Islam to control the fight and potentially dominate from start to finish. If that happens, Mendes believes the performance will speak for itself. A victory over Garry would not simply be another win for Islam. It could become another major step towards cementing his legacy among the greatest fighters the sport has ever seen. Mendes believes Islam has already accomplished enough to deserve serious consideration, but a dominant performance on August 15th could make that argument even harder to ignore. If Islam delivers as expected, the MMA world may have no choice but to recognize him as a legitimate GOAT contender. Move on to another news. Sean O'Malley has given his take on a potential matchup between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paddy Pimblett, and it sounds like he would lean toward Usman if the two fighters ever shared the cage. During a recent discussion, O'Malley was asked who he would pick in a fight between Usman and Paddy. While he admitted that Paddy has surprised him many times before, O'Malley still appeared to favor Usman based on his overall skill set and abilities. O'Malley explained that Paddy is the kind of fighter who can constantly exceed expectations. Even when people count him out, Paddy has found ways to deliver performances that surprise fans and analysts. That unpredictability makes him a difficult fighter to confidently pick against. However, when it comes to Usman, O'Malley seems to believe the former champion has the tools necessary to deal with Paddy's style. One interesting part of the discussion was the difference in their physical size. O'Malley was asked who would be bigger between Usman and Paddy, and he suggested that Paddy would probably have the size advantage. At the same time, O'Malley pointed out that the two fighters could actually be fairly similar in overall size. He also emphasized that Usman is a big fighter despite being known for his speed, technique, and highly skilled grappling. That physical strength could become an important factor if these two ever meet inside the Octagon. Usman has built a reputation as one of the most talented fighters in the sport, combining elite wrestling with dangerous striking and excellent control. Paddy, meanwhile, has developed into one of the UFC's most recognizable personalities and continues to prove that he should never be underestimated. For O'Malley, Paddy's ability to surprise people makes the matchup interesting, but if he had to make a pick right now, he would likely side with Usman. Move on to another news. Ilya's manager, Malki Kawa, has fired back at Ali Abdelaziz after Ali made some bold claims about how Usman Nurmagomedov would perform against some of the biggest names in the UFC. Ali recently suggested that Usman would be a nightmare matchup for several elite fighters. He praised Usman's wrestling and grappling, claiming that he could stop Paddy Pimblett in under 2 rounds and potentially make him quit. Ali also argued that Usman would be extremely difficult for fighters like Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway to deal with. According to Ali, Max has excellent striking, but does not have the wrestling and grappling necessary to compete with someone like Usman. He went even further, saying that the only truly competitive matchup for Usman could be Arman. Those comments clearly caught the attention of Ilya's manager. Malki Kawa responded by posting a video addressing Ali directly. Kawa argued that Ilya is still the #1 fighter in the world and insisted that his recent loss to Justin Gaethje was simply a bad night. Kawa then delivered a strong warning, claiming that Ilya would annihilate Ali's entire roster if given the opportunity. He specifically addressed the possibility of a rematch with Gaethje, saying that Ilya would beat him in a second fight and prove that he is the better fighter. Kawa acknowledged that Gaethje performed well in their previous matchup and gave him credit, but he clearly believes the result does not change his opinion about Ilya's overall ability. He also took aim at Ali for constantly hyping up his own fighters and making predictions about who they can beat. Kawa told Ali to stop talking and suggested that the comments sounded more like hype than reality. According to Kawa, Ilya remains the best fighter in the world, and he believes fans will see the difference when Ilya returns to action. Kawa confidently mentioned several elite names, including Paddy Pimblett, Islam, Usman, and Gaethje, insisting that it does not matter who Ilya eventually faces. In his view, Ilya is capable of delivering a master class against any of them. The back and forth adds even more tension to the ongoing debate surrounding Usman and Ilya. With both sides showing enormous confidence in their fighters, these comments could make a potential future matchup even more interesting. Move on to another news. Georges St-Pierre has responded to Conor after the former UFC champion shared an update following his recent knee surgery. Conor recently announced that his surgery was successful and that he had officially started his road to recovery. In a message to his fans, Conor sounded extremely confident and made it clear that his mindset remains focused on returning to action. He celebrated the successful procedure and explained that his knee had been repaired, suggesting that the surgery was an important step toward getting back into fighting shape. Conor also gave a special shout-out to Dominick Cruz, pointing out that Cruz managed to return from multiple ACL injuries and eventually recapture the UFC Bantamweight Championship. Conor then mentioned Georges St-Pierre as another example of a fighter who dealt with serious knee injuries while still maintaining an incredible level of movement and athleticism. St-Pierre has previously dealt with significant knee issues during his career, and Conor appeared to use his story as motivation while discussing his own recovery. After Conor shared the footage, GSP reposted it on X and sent him a short but supportive message, writing, "Let's go, Conor." That response immediately showed that St-Pierre is backing Conor as he begins the difficult process of rehabilitation. Dominick Cruz also reposted the video, adding another connection between the fighters Conor mentioned in his message. For Conor, the road back will now involve recovery, rehabilitation, and eventually rebuilding his conditioning before he can seriously consider returning to the Octagon. His latest update suggests that he remains highly motivated and determined to get back. Moving on, Ilya was recently at the center of attention after footage from a night out in Ibiza circulated online. Some fans began making personal claims about Ilya based on the footage, but his manager, Malki Kawa, quickly turned the situation into a joke. Kawa appeared alongside Ilya and jokingly reacted to the viral footage, insisting that Ilya was not actually in the video. He repeatedly told people to stop and urged them to make sure they understood that the person shown in the footage was not Ilya. The moment quickly became another example of how MMA fighters and their teams can use viral social media moments to have some fun. While the footage created plenty of discussion online, Kawa's reaction made it clear that he was simply trolling Ilya over the situation. Between Conor's recovery update and the viral Ilya footage, both stories have generated plenty of attention among MMA fans. Move on to another news. Javier Mendes believes Usman Nurmagomedov would not receive an immediate UFC title shot if he signs with the promotion. According to Mendes, giving Usman an immediate opportunity at the lightweight championship could create a major problem for the UFC. If Usman were to enter the organization and immediately defeat the champion, it could essentially prove that the best lightweight fighter in the world had been competing outside the UFC. Mendes explained that this would give credibility to organizations such as the PFL and suggests that the UFC does not necessarily have every top fighter in the world. In his opinion, the UFC would never want to create that situation because it would make the competition look stronger. Because of that, Mendes believes Usman would likely need to fight his way toward a title opportunity rather than receiving one immediately. When discussing potential opponents, Mendes dismissed the idea of Justin Gaethje and instead revealed the matchup he would personally prefer. His choice is Paddy Pimblett. Mendes believes Paddy would be a fun introduction for Usman to a huge UFC audience. The matchup would bring plenty of attention, with both fighters having passionate fan bases. Mendes also joked about Paddy bringing his famous supporters, adding even more entertainment value to the potential fight. However, Mendes' biggest praise was reserved for Usman himself. He explained that he has watched Usman develop since he was very young. Mendes recalled that when he first traveled to Dagestan, Khabib told him about Usman, describing him as his cousin and Umar's younger brother, and predicting that he would become something special. Later, when Mendes actually trained with Usman, he realized that the young fighter had exactly the qualities Khabib had described. Mendes went as far as saying that Usman is the best fighter-athlete he has ever trained. He made an important distinction, though. From a pure athletic standpoint, Mendes believes Herschel Walker was the greatest athlete he had ever seen. But when combining athletic ability with fighting ability, Mendes considers Usman unmatched. According to Mendes, Usman possesses skills that simply cannot be taught. There are certain things Usman does inside the gym that Mendes says he never taught him and could not teach him. Those abilities, in his opinion, come naturally to Usman and are a major reason why he considers him such a special fighter. That is why Mendes believes Usman has the potential to make a huge impact if he eventually enters the UFC. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has come to Tom Aspinall's defense after the heavyweight champion faced criticism for stopping his fight against Cyril Gane because of an eye injury. Following the fight, some fans accused Aspinall of exaggerating the severity of the injury and suggested that he may have stopped because he was struggling early in the contest. However, Rogan strongly disagrees with that criticism. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, with Rico Verhoeven as a guest, Rogan explained that he believes Aspinall was treated unfairly and essentially got screwed over by the situation. Rogan pointed out that Aspinall was defending the heavyweight title when he suffered a serious eye poke that left him unable to properly see. In Rogan's view, there was no reason to criticize a fighter for stopping when his vision had been compromised by an illegal foul. He also revealed that Aspinall has undergone 2 eye surgeries since the incident, highlighting just how serious the injury actually was. Rogan described Aspinall as one of the nicest people he knows and praised the heavyweight for how hard he works. He also made it clear that he could never imagine Aspinall intentionally quitting or exaggerating an injury. Rico Verhoeven, who has been close friends with Aspinall and has trained with him for nearly a decade, strongly agreed with Rogan. Verhoeven explained that Aspinall simply does not have that mentality. He has the heart of a true fighter, and quitting because he was supposedly behind on the scorecards would not fit his character. Rogan acknowledged why some fans became suspicious. Gane had started the fight well, and because the stoppage happened early, some people believed Aspinall might have used the eye injury as an excuse. But Rogan emphasized that the fight was only in its early stages. A fighter can look good in the opening minutes without knowing how the rest of the contest will unfold. More importantly, Rogan focused on the severity of the eye poke itself. He explained that Gane's finger went deep into Aspinall's eye, making it impossible to simply dismiss the injury. For Rogan and Verhoeven, the evidence speaks for itself. Aspinall was dealing with a legitimate injury, and his decision to stop the fight should not be viewed as weakness. Instead, they believe the heavyweight champion deserves respect for protecting his vision and refusing to continue when he could not safely see. Move on to another news. Dustin Poirier and Jorge Masvidal recently discussed some of the wildest crowds they have ever experienced during their fighting careers. During an episode of the Deep Water Show, the fighters shared stories about some of the most unforgettable atmospheres they have experienced inside and outside the Octagon. When Jorge was asked about the craziest crowd he had ever fought in front of, he immediately brought up the backyard fights in Miami, where the atmosphere could become absolutely insane. The conversation then turned toward Long Island and the Nassau Coliseum, where Jorge remembered the crowd during his fight against Kelvin Gastelum. That event was particularly special because it was the first UFC main event held on Long Island. Georges explained that the fans were going completely wild throughout the night. After winning the fight, the reaction from the crowd made him feel as if he had just won a world title. The energy inside the arena was incredible, and the victory became even more memorable because of the atmosphere surrounding it. Dustin then explained that some of the craziest crowds he experienced came whenever he fought Conor. According to Dustin, fans from Ireland would travel in huge numbers to support Conor. Their presence could be felt everywhere, from the press conferences to the weigh-ins and finally inside the arena. Dustin said that the fans were extremely loud and passionate, especially when fighting someone with the star power that Conor had. He explained that all 3 of his fights involving Conor featured some of the craziest crowds he had ever experienced. The conversation then moved to another fighter who brought up Hawaii as his answer. He recalled fighting Max Holloway's uncle there, which immediately surprised everyone on the show. The story quickly became a funny moment, as the fighters reacted with disbelief before confirming that the fight actually happened. From massive UFC arenas to backyard fights and packed Hawaiian crowds, the fighters made it clear that certain locations can create an atmosphere that stays with you long after the fight is over.